Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Toolbox Extra on the Educational AD Podcast. We're going to be right back with this week's Toolbox guest. But first, as always, we're going to give a shout out to our sponsors. Now, I'm watching you. Don't hit that fast forward button. These sponsors are all companies that I used as an athletic director. They're all great companies, and I really recommend that you check them out. So take 3 minutes. That's it. Listen to our shout outs, then listen to our toolbox expert, then go and visit these sponsors. I'm telling you, you're going to be glad you did. Here we go. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Huddle for their support. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school, and our coaches just loved the tools and technology that Huddle provides. Our student athletes love the videos, and our parents love the streaming, but there's a whole lot more. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users, turn your school into a Huddle school. We also want to thank our friends at Snap Mobile. Go to snapraise.com, check out their full suite of apps, including Snap Raise, probably the best fundraising platform out there. We used it at our school with tremendous success, and so will you. Go to snapraise.com. Like I said, check out their other platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you just found it, and it's Snap Raise. We want to say thanks to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to show off your school record boards or your school's athletic hall of fame, go to Vital Signs Wall of Fame and take a look at their interactive touchscreen video consoles. You put one of their units in your gym lobby or your main school hallway, it's going to be a magnet for kids, for coaches. How about sponsors and alumni? You got to see it to believe it. Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com and don't forget to mention the podcast. We also want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys. If you're not doing a survey to take the pulse of your coaches, your student athletes, even your parents, you're missing out on a great opportunity. We use surveys at our school for just about everything, and the information that came back was almost always over the top positive, but we also got to hear from those squeaky wheel parents and address their concerns before they turned into something big. But having that data, very valuable, especially when you're meeting with your principal, maybe your superintendent, or how about your school board? Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create that custom survey just for you. athleticsurveys.com. We want to say thanks to Hometown. Hometown is still changing the game for schools and organizations with their suite of solutions that include, oh, yeah, they're still the number one digital ticketing platform, but how about fee-free fundraising, athletic website construction, and a whole lot more? Whether you're an athletic director, a head coach, or a school administrator, Hometown makes it easy for you and your school to save time, to raise more money, and to bring your entire community together. To find out more, just go to hometown.com and don't forget to mention the podcast. We want to thank our friends at Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. My assistant athletic director, along with thousands of others, got his master's through the Ohio University program, and it was a great experience. And while he was doing it, he also was able to complete 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. Check out the Ohio University Online Masters in Athletic Administration, and don't forget to mention the podcast. Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. You've heard me say before, probably one of the best purchases I ever made as an athletic director. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Schedule a live web demo to see their products in action. That's sidelineinteractive.com. We want to thank our friends at Gipper. Go to Gipper.com and let their team help you become a social media guru. Whether it's a simple post to celebrate a victory or an entire newsletter to showcase all the great things your program's doing, the team at Gipper will have you up and running in no time. And the cool thing about the Gipper templates, they're auto brand with colors, with logos, with mascots. I've said it before, but I'll say it again. You got to see it to believe it. Go to Gipper.com. Tell them you heard about it on the podcast. That's Gipper.com. And we want to thank Home Campus. Home Campus is a platform you're going to use every single day for scheduling, rosters, results. For me, the athletic eligibility and clearance platform alone is worth the price of admission. Go to homecampus.com and tell them you heard about it on the podcast. That's homecampus.com. You're going to be very glad you did. Welcome back, everybody, to another segment of what we call the Toolbox Extra on the Educational AD podcast. We've got somebody that I like to call a friend of the show. Our guest today is L.A. Higgins, Lisa Ann Higgins. She has an incredible background in athletics. She's also, from Florida, so that makes it even better. She is the Associate Director of Athletics for Development at Texas State University. She was on the podcast earlier this year. If you missed that interview, please go back to our library and take a listen to it. L.A. Higgins, welcome back to the Educational AD podcast.
Thanks for having me, Jake. Excited to be here.
Well, for our listeners, we're recording this on May 30th, so it's going to be very timely when you're listening to it. LA, I'm going to get out of the way. What do you have for our listeners on this Toolbox Extra segment?
So I wanted to talk today about getting hired in the college athletics industry because this is the time of year that jobs are opening and people are applying, and it's a lot easier to make a move during the summer than it is mid-football season as someone who did that last year. So I wanted to talk specifically about that.
Well, again, your background, you were, high school athlete, you got involved in college athletics from an
Mhm,
administration perspective.
mhm,
I guess for me, I remember 100 years ago, I was a high school coach. I went straight from college, started teaching junior high, high school, climbing that coaching ladder. And in the back of my mind, I thought, well, hey, I can just become a college coach someday if I do well enough as a high
mhm.
school coach. And it really didn't transfer. I did end up at the college level for 9 years and loved it, but it wasn't just a straight linear trip. So, help us understand, I guess, maybe a better way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, the first thing is understanding the industry, and just how it works, and just knowing that like studies have literally been put out that jobs open the most in the industry, whether it's coaching or administration, athletic training, whatever, they open the most between April and August. Like that's when the peak hiring is. So knowing that like if you want to make that move, it's probably not going to be as easy, or there's not going to be as many opportunities available in November, December, just because that wave has kind of slowed. But the second thing is making sure that you're in the know. Every industry is different, but specifically college athletics, you're gonna, you know, I'm like, I'll free ad for the D1 ticker, but it's a great, it's not just a newsletter, but at the bottom of every D1 ticker is, what jobs got posted that day and the day prior. And then beyond that is Collegiate Sports Connect, where all the jobs that have been posted are all right there on there. I think they call it the lobby. Um, and the good thing to know about that is from an HR background, like from the HR side, that background that I had is sometimes when this is unfortunately a lot of companies, but especially in higher ed, when a job is posted and it's just posted on, specifically that institution's work day, job board,
Right.
whatever it might be, it there might already be an internal candidate being hired for it. It might not be the free open job that like we actually think it is, but when you go to the D1 ticker and Collegiate Sports Connect, all those jobs, I think it's like $250 to post on there. So you know that it's a real job and you know it's actually open. Probably more so for more fair applications. So that's the first thing. I guess it's the second thing because the timeline was the first. But the second thing is like knowing where to look. And like Teamwork Online is another great place. And then just like you might see things on LinkedIn. Um, but I would say that for the most accurate, you know that it's not just posted because for formalities. The most accurate would be, subscribing to the D1 ticker. Obviously, it's great information as far as what's going on in the industry anyways. Um, but and Collegiate Sports Connect, where you have all the jobs and you can like filter it out by development, by, sports information and communication. So whatever thing you want to get into. And then there's different ways to find what you're looking for specifically.
Right. And you bring up such a great point. There are so many different types of jobs in athletics, particularly college athletics, beyond just say the traditional coaching or AD, and you mentioned a
Mhm.
few, whether it's development or promotion, sports medicine, sports information,
Yes.
game day operations, and everything. There's just
Yes.
so many ways that you can be a part of, let's say, an athletic department, and have an impact not just in coaching or being an AD.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and that, kind of brings me to the next point is like figuring out what you want to do. I think that, you know, as as former athletes, we've all tried coaching at some point or another. And we've figured out if that's, what we want to do, but there's different ways to, impact student athletes' lives. And I think that's how college athletics and all the different parts of administration have grown into. Um, and really your AD at the college level kind of oversees all of those things. But to your point, there's external sides, there's internal sides, there's entire business offices that like when I was at FAU, one of the first people, she was the senior associate AD for business and finance and CFO, and she was an accountant, like she was a CPA. So there's you know people that are really great with the business side of things. Compliance is all the rules in the most regular terms. It's the rules and making sure that people are following the rules. And I'm like a couple of my friends in compliance, they all have like JD and law backgrounds. So there's there's a lot of different places where sports and passions intersect. So it's figuring out what yours is best at. I feel like I might have taken the cop out way and taken development because I just like to talk to people. But there's different avenues. So figuring out where your personality fits and how what you want your day to day to look like is really important too.
Well, and again, that's another fantastic point. We all have our gifts, we all have our tools, and if you have those particular tools, absolutely a department's going to be looking for you.
Yeah.
LA, I'm going to put you on the spot. Okay, you're in a big time athletic department. You came from one at FAU, certainly. Um, as you are evaluating resumes and letters of interest, um, what is going to stick out for you? Not so much what are you looking for, but what's going to stick out? If somebody doesn't have college experience, they have skills, tools like we talked about,
Mhm.
but maybe it's at the high school level or even the junior college level or even the corporate world. What's going to make their application stick out for you and say, hey, this is somebody we should bring in?
Yeah, honestly, I'm very type A and like I always tell my student workers I'll review their resumes for free and I've actually read down a couple of them just um I'm like so really specifically obviously like the things you would hear from any person in any industry is like grammar and like spelling mistakes, like don't want to see those kinds of things. It's an immediate red flag. That's also me who's super type A, but that would be one thing. And then beyond that is like when you list out skills, like, making sure like not that you shouldn't put this on your resume anymore, but like Microsoft Office is a necessary thing that we should all have a skill in. So it's, and but making sure that your skills are more of the tangibles than the intangibles. Um, you know, work ethic is not a skill that we should list on our resume, but making sure that your what's on your resume, whether whether it's the high school level, the junior college level, or even the corporate level, you're listing things that you've done that will translate directly into whatever college athletics niche area you're looking at. And so I think that one of the easiest ways to do that is numbers. And if you're looking for a fundraising role, showing that you've generated revenue before. And then even, an event management side, making sure that you can portray that you've, handled events that 50,000 people come to. And so I would say that like your numbers are going to be the things that jump out the most. That also, if I'm like just from what my resume looks like, when I did UCA staff, like I worked these national and international cheerleading competitions at, Disney's ESPN Wide World of Sports, where, 50,000 people walk through the gates. So that's, I'm like, UCA staff was an incredible time in my life, but it was my summer job, that I had extra opportunities to work, and it was realistically, it was my cheerleading job. And there's a lot of things that we can, poke fun at it for. But the fact that the reason it's still on my resume is because it's coaching, which I think is a directly transferable skill. And then it's also the fact that I can put on there, I worked these events that had bodies coming through, and I worked it at this scale, so I can absolutely do it on a football game scale. I can absolutely do it. So I think that the numbers are really important. And so I'm like, that would be the one thing that like if you want your resume to stand out, making sure that like there's numbers on it and that's going to transfer.
Yeah, as I listened to you share that, I guess there were two things that came across my mind. Using words, and correct me if I'm wrong, using words like, raised, $500,000,
Mhm.
managed a team of 60, 80, 300,
Yes.
whatever it was, using those types of descriptive words to
Mhm.
give that, whether it's an AD, a student, or an HR person, an idea of what you can do.
Yeah.
And then because, and here's where I was going, as they read that resume, anybody listening to you, they're going to say, she had to be a cheerleader. Okay. The enthusiasm, it just comes through. That's
Mhm.
not going to come through on the printed paper. So,
Right.
or the digital paper. I'm sorry. And so you have to figure out ways to sell yourself
Mhm.
so that you're going to get that call or email and say, "Hey, we'd like to talk to you more." Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely. I think so. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Definitely the descriptive words. I like that. Yes.
Well, as the hiring season for college, and I dare say for high school too, is in full swing, there's a big event coming up next in the next weeks. Can you share a little bit about that event, what it is, and maybe why it might be worth someone's while who's listening to come down to Orlando and attend that?
Yeah, absolutely. So NACDA, which is National Association of College Directors of Athletics, is kind of the umbrella term and convention for all the different umbrella terms that fall under there and the different associations. So I'm a part of NAD for specifically development. There's event management and facilities, all different areas of it. But overarching NACDA is in Orlando, June 8th through 11th. And I will be there. So if you would like to connect, follow me on Twitter, shoot me an email. I'm sure we'll do my plugs at the end, but would love to connect with anyone that will be there. So I think NACT is a fantastic opportunity, mainly for networking, but also learning what other people in the industry are doing, whether that's at the, Power Four level, and you're learning from people who are at Big Ten and Big 12 schools, all the way to, I've gone to sessions and listened to FCS and non-football institution administrators speak. So a lot of different shared knowledge is there. I personally have met some of my very best friends at NACDA, and they're the people that I call. I talk to. I try to connect with them at least once a week, but we're all very busy people. But I look forward to it because I get to see some of my best friends again. But they're also the same people that I'm not just calling personally to catch up with them, but I'm also calling when I need to strategize a donor, or hey dude, what's going on with how's your school handling this? And so there's so much good I would have to say about it. I think I also kind of thrive in those spaces because of my cheerleading days. I get to be on for 18 hours a day. Um, but NACT is an awesome opportunity to network, and then you're also there and you're finding out who's hiring. I'm like, I've had friends go to NACTA specifically because they're hiring, and they don't go to sessions because they're having like coffee speed dating interviews, with different people that might be interested for a role. And you don't need to fly them out and bring them on an on-campus interview because you're sitting right across from them. So there's definitely those opportunities for that too. Um, I will say there's some pre-planning that goes into it, but there's also opportunity of just follow up, and we have business cards, and I come back with like 40 business cards after every week. So I NACDA's an awesome opportunity for the networking side of it, find out, and then even if it's not then and there that they're hiring, they might be hiring for a role in 6 months.
Right. And if you have seen a job and you're thinking, hey, I really, really would like to talk to somebody, just send them that along with your resume and your application. Say, hey, I'm going to be at the NACDA conference in a couple of weeks. I'd love to connect if you're free. And, they
Absolutely.
might just say, well, hey, let's meet at XYZ
Yeah.
time. You
Yeah.
never know. Okay.
Yeah, it's spectacular how those things happen. That's why I said there's some pre-planning going into it. But the agendas come out, you can see who from what institution's going to be where. Um, so you can even start out that email with, "Hey, saw you're going to be speaking, looking forward to your session, would love to grab coffee sometime in the week." Definitely. I'm like, I've done that before. So I think it's an awesome opportunity to do that, pre-plan. And um, but also the one piece of advice that I heard that I've always kept in mind just as I grow in the industry, and I'm maybe not the main hiring decision maker yet, but when I eventually want to be there, it's not just networking in, the siloed part of the industry that you want to work in. So it's not just networking and development, but, you know, marketing and compliance and these different areas. Because, you know, if I want to be an athletic director one day, I, I, I'm gonna need someone to run the student athlete academic center. Um, and if I've only ever known people in my little niche world of development or just even just on the external side of things, I'm not going to have, I'm not going to be able to reach out and explore that. So I would also say, yes, network up and network down, but network out outside of just what you want to do.
No, again, another great point. It makes me think of that cliche, and it's a cliche because it is true. It's not just who you know, it's who knows you as well.
Hmm.
To
Hmm.
that end, if one of our listeners wanted to reach out and pick your brain a little bit more, not just about NACDA, but about all things for athletic administration and development, what's the best way that they can connect with LA Higgins?
So you can shoot me an email at lahiggins@txstate.edu, or we can be Twitter friends, or X as we call it these days. And I'm LA Higgins. That's LA_Higgins on X. And would love to connect there as well.
I like Twitter friends. I don't, if I say we're ex friends, then we're not friends anymore.
It doesn't sound exactly, exactly.
Well, LA, thanks again for coming back on the podcast for this Toolbox Extra. Have a great time in Orlando. You and I have already talked about it. I'm going to try to sneak down there and you and I can get that cup of coffee. But
Absolutely.
thanks for sharing on the podcast. We're definitely going to get you back for another segment.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jake. Appreciate it.
For listeners, we appreciate you as well. And just a reminder, we upload the Zoom recordings of every interview to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do this segment just about every week and just about every day. We try to share stories from the world of athletics along with some best practices. So hopefully you'll join us again on another episode of the Educational AD. Hey, before we go, we do want to give a shout out to all of our sponsors very quickly. And just a reminder, these are companies that I used as an athletic director. Yes, they pay me as sponsors, but I ask them to be sponsors because I know that you're going to love them too. So let's say thanks to Gipper find them at Gipper.com. Vital Signs Wall of Fame, you'll find them at vitalsignswalloffame.com. Snap Mobile, Snap Raise, that's snapraise.com. Huddle, go to huddle.com. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack, you'll find them at athleticsurveys.com. Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards, sidelineinteractive.com. Home Campus, how about homecampus.com? Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. Make sure you check that out. Hometown, you'll find them at hometown.com. And let's give a shout out to K-12 Sports Tech. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time on the Toolbox Extra on the Educational AD Podcast.